Hello, beloved. I'm Monica Bermudez. I'm your host for the podcast called The Ascended Earth, The Transfiguration of the New Human. This episode is about the energy of words and symbolism. And so the intention of the episode is to expand and activate more of your awareness. And just going to jump into some of the language around the world because there's so many, right? And they all also have like their own energy as well. So growing up, I had a thing for learning different languages. I was so intrigued by all of them. And if I had gone a different route in my career, I would have learned almost all the languages or as many as I could. In school, I took French and Latin, but at some point I wanted to learn also Aramaic, which is a rare language to speak, and it was the language of the Athenians, where Yeshua, or Cosmic Master Sananda, was a part of during that time. And I do feel that I lived during that time and I spoke Aramaic. I feel that memory is within my soul. So if you have a desire to learn a specific language or feel drawn to one in particular, that is a clue of your past life, past human life as well. Little fun fact of that from my own personal experience. When I was when I was little, I learned to speak Spanish on my own, and it was my desire to learn it. So people, think that I learned from school, but actually I never did. I never went to school or never went to any Spanish speaking country of, schooling. All my schooling was in the US. So I would practice with other Spanish speaking people in the United States who I met and read, who I met, but I would also read like a lot of diverse Spanish literature on my own. And so, but the nice thing about learning this way is that I got exposure to so many different cultures of Central and South America. And I was always diverse and I always looked at everybody as humans. I didn't care for their, country affiliation. I just saw humans with divine sparks. And I still see this in everybody, even today. So it is a desire that I wish for others to also see in me, that I'm just this human with a divine spark as well. And like all of us, we're having human experience, but we're also learning in the process too. As I was learning to speak Spanish, I got a chance to practice with so many different countries and cultures of Latin America, South America, and even Spain from others in the US. I first started speaking by practicing with my parents, but I quickly learned that their words had different meanings in other Latin countries. And so sometimes it would get me in trouble, which wasn't, my intent, or I didn't have any ill intent with it. So I would innocently say them thinking that it was normal, but as it turns out, it wasn't the case. So somehow someone would get insulted. So in previous episodes, I shared how much growing up I really didn't feel human. I felt more extraterrestrial. So definitely, very starseed. However, with all my learning from others, I quickly learned to adapt, to my human life in this lifetime as well. And I realized that, each country has their own slang for their language. So it just really fascinated me. So in the process, I also taught myself to write and read Spanish. For those who are educated from a Spanish school system in a Spanish speaking country will notice a slight difference in my speaking and writing, but it's still understandable. And others are kind to say I speak well. So what I realized in learning Spanish from so many different cultures, that some of the words were either like insulting in certain countries or not appropriate, whereas in other places it meant the opposite. So I learned through trial and error or human life bloopers that, the whole process of the the words and how, um, it changes, in each culture and has how they have their own energy in that way. So a lot of these languages and learning these languages and so forth is a memory in our soul that is blossoming. And I know that I've had, past lives already, also like previous lifetimes where I lived in Spanish speaking countries as well. And I have, um, memories of other countries as well with different languages. So the same would apply to any other language, right? Like if you had different slangs, like in English, the United States English is different from the English of England. The Boston English is very different in its pronunciation. But lately, I've developed an ear for certain slangs and accents from others, and so I'm able to just perceive it and understand. So through time, as history has taught us, there is an evolution of languages and symbolism, an evolution of words and how their meaning changes as well. So look at the language of ancient Egypt. Everything was in hieroglyphs, which are really symbols. Asian languages are symbolisms, use symbolism in their letters, and it all looks so artistic to me. Arabic language, the same in an artistic style of writing. Same with Hebrew language. And I've been studying certain Kabbalah symbolisms, and I absolutely love the energy and meanings of their symbolism. It's possibility that the US language will shift in the future, perhaps turn into more of the Spanglish. And it's already happening now. I mean, look at the Romance languages like Spanish, French, and Italian. They stem from the root language of Latin. And many other different languages have some of this Latin language in them as well. So language continues to evolve due to cultural and other shifts and mixture of races as well. So really in the earth, we're like this melting pot of many star nations as well. And actually, all of these languages are still within your soul. Your Akashic records, including light language from the many star nations you come from, too. You have forgotten because you agreed to forget, but you are now remembering. And you also agreed that you would start to remember some point or another. I have friends who instantly remember to speak Chinese and they have never studied it in this lifetime. And I read many real cases, true cases of others who suddenly remember these languages, other languages without any schooling in their lifetime. This is a soul memory. And I use the term activation, but it's another way of saying this is your remembrance. And it is a form of awakening and ascension too. And so that's, really what happened with me in light language. I remembered. And so it's just been expanding that memory within my soul. But I also feel that as we expand even more with these new energies, that the new earth will speak in more telepathy, the mind to mind speaking and heart to heart speaking without having to speak the words out loud. It's a divine ability in you, in all of us. Ascension and awakening are trendy terms in the spiritual community, but this was not the term used hundreds of thousands of years ago. Other terms were used, and other terms will be used in the future. Words carry the energy we place on it too, and they also carry a certain tone of vibration based on the pronunciation of them. Light language is a vibrational sound with either translation or sometimes as just codes of DNA activation. Due to the traumatic action of cults and hateful organizations Some symbols and terms were corrupted based on the energy they placed on it. And during World War II, for example, the swastika symbol was corrupted. And the swastika symbol is actually an ancient symbol that had a deep spiritual significance, which comes from the Sanskrit meaning conducive to well being. In Hinduism, it meant prosperity and good luck. In Buddhism, it represented the footprint of Buddha. And the list can go on, reinforcing powerful meanings and symbolism. But now, when people see this symbolism, they think evil and corruption because of the collective energy on it that has been imprinted with trauma, with hate, and heinous crimes. So, ascension is also about shifting our perception. It's about looking at words and symbols from a place of light as well. Flip the other side of the coin. Don't just look at one side of the coin. One side of the coin has darkness, shadow, and the other side has light. So look at both sides of the coin and don't just focus on one side. In our multidimensional self that we are, we look at all dimensions. And this is expansive, just saying that and feeling it within you. Look at all angles, not just the one angle. Being able to shift your perception holds a lot of power. In Kybalion, there is a universal law of vibration that says nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates, everything is dual, everything has poles, everything has pairs of opposites, like and unlike are the opposites, are the same, and opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. Extremes meet, all truths are but half-truths or paradoxes may be reconciled. Hate and love are the same, but different in degree. That's what that statement means. So it goes back to the coin analogy. Look at both sides, or in the case of multidimensional, looking at all angles. Recently, there has been fear among some spiritual community practitioners on the term twin flame because of corruption from cult leaders using for toxic intentions. This is not the first time for this to occur, and it may not be the last. Although the term has been used and mentioned in ancient times, for instance, Plato, an ancient Greek philosopher, referred to twin flames or twin souls in his writings more than 2,500 years ago. Every word and symbolism have their own vibrational energy. And as a society, we can also collectively shift the energy of a word and symbolism. And I am here to remind you of that power you hold within yourself to shift any corruption and toxic from a few who taint certain words or symbolism. Everything is energy. Energy is transformed, and it continues to be transformed. Or you can look at it as being recycled. So I will call it recycled energy. This goes back to my discussions on money and knives. Are they corrupt? These are objects or tools. Wars can be tools too. We also wield power with words. And actually, we make the energy with our own intentions and choices of how we use them. You make that choice. You have the choice of how you shift the energy. And I hope you continue to choose the greater path of love and joy and compassion and gratitude. Just recently, I was made aware that in Australia, the use of human potential was tainted or corrupted by another cult. I didn't even know that. because I hardly watch the news. And I had just created an episode with these terms in my title. In fact, I don't like to watch the news anymore for that reason because words get twisted around and form, some form of like toxic negative vibe with them. So if people don't want to listen to my episode because they're stuck on a cult corrupting the terms, then they are letting them win and allowing this energy to overpower them. You are your own independent person, so be open to new ideas and new energies, but at the same time, do use your heart discernment with this too. And I have an episode on discernment. Feel the energy of the words being relayed by the speaker. You will pick up the intention from their heart. And this is discernment of the heart to be able to see and feel what is invisible. It's another way of psychic abilities. In words and symbolism, I can see both angles to this, where it carries its own energy and where we can shift its energy too. Vowel sound, sacred sounds, like the ones from ancient India, such as Om, the universal vibrational sound. Om. And Om also uses its own symbol too. And actually, Om is a form of light language. I have episodes, some of my previous episodes discuss more on light language, so check them out if you haven't. And so I do feel that some of the Earth language carry words that stem from Star Nation's light language, or at least that is how their ears of our ancestors heard these sounds, and so how it was perceived, and that is how the word was started. Our own name carries its own frequency of energy. You can intone your own name and stimulate your own motivation and energy boost. So even if you change your name, you can harness that energy. It's so cool how different names carry their own frequency. And I did a lot of research on the origins of my own name, Monica, and I found that it is Latin root stands for consultant or advisor. And from an intuitive insight, I get this vibrational energy of Divine Mother. And there may have been different meanings of the name lost in time, too. So some of these birth names, meanings, may not necessarily resonate with everybody. So that's why some people change their names or use nicknames. And nicknames can carry certain energy to them as well. Symbolism is very powerful in energy, too. This is the basis of Reiki practice. And I am not a Reiki practitioner, but I understand it. And I have been practicing my own method with energies as a chakra alchemist. My favorite work is from Dr. Masaru Emoto on the experiment with energy affecting molecular structure of water. He would place labels of words or symbols with energetic intentions or prey on certain water. And then he would crystallize the water and look at the formations through some kind of special equipment like a microscope to see its shape. And some of these shapes were so beautiful. And so he even experimented using music as well. So to me, these shape formations that they will show pictures of, they look like sacred geometry to me. And he would use such words like thank you, wisdom, eternal, with these beautiful sacred geometrical formations. And also he would use other words such as like you fool. And so the shapes would be formless, it would have no formation. So the words that were of like lower vibrational energy that had, lower energy to them, did not have that formation to them. So he has many studies on that. And if you haven't heard of him, check him out. There's a lot of content on his research. So, as we conclude this episode, I encourage you to continue to choose the best of intentions in your words and symbols for the collective. Let's shift the timelines together and collective quantum leap to accelerate a new earth that has new structures built around compassion, kindness, and love. So let's do one small exercise together. So just visualize planet Earth through your mind's eyes, using your imagination, having this visual imprint of Earth. And we're going to place a symbol. So now just see Earth inside a glowing, illuminated heart. It is a golden heart energy. So visually see and feel the effects of this heart symbol surrounding Earth, and that all are receiving this energy. And you may do that as often as you so desire. And the more you do so, the more that we as a collective shift together for building this new world and these new structures. So thank you. And as a ancient word would say, which means to bow to the divinity within you, I conclude with Namaste.